It's time for This Week in WordPress, episode number 243, entitled It's Always About Mark. It was recorded on Monday, the 6th of March, 2023. My name's Nathan Wrigley, and I will be joined today by two special guests. Firstly, Michelle Frechette and also Andrew Palmer. We were supposed to be joined by Hazel Quimpo, but unfortunately she was unwell. But we carried on regardless and talked about WordPress lots and lots. WordPress 6.2 is coming down the pike very soon, and there's lots of accessibility improvements. You can find out all about those. We also talk about the Openverse integration and how there's been a bit of a furore about the way it's been implemented with hot links. Well, you can now import your WordPress 6.2 Openverse images just by clicking on the button. It's a really nice update to WordPress. We also get into the 6.2 source of truth document, which Anne McCarthy has written. If you've got any questions about what's coming in 6.2, that is the way to get the answer. Mastodon. Is it taking over Twitter? Have you lost interest? We talk about how I'm using it over at WP Builds, and then we get into a long conversation about WordCamp Asia. Both Andrew and Michelle were there, and so they talk about their experience and how brilliant they thought it was. Should WordPress lose the blogging functionality by default? It's an interesting idea, and in many cases it may be better for the CMS. Tell us what you think. And then towards the end, just a few silly bits and pieces. We talk about AI, and we talk about ATATs on wheels. It's all coming up next on This Week in WordPress. This episode of the WP Builds podcast is brought to you by GoDaddy Pro, the home of managed WordPress hosting that includes free domain, SSL, and 24/7 support. Bundle that with the Hub by GoDaddy Pro to unlock more free benefits to manage multiple sites in one place, invoice clients, and get 30% off new purchases. Find out more at go.me/WP Builds. Hello there, hello, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is the This Week in WordPress show, episode number 243. We talk every week about WordPress, whether you like it or not. We're going to be here nattering about WordPress. And today,
True.
What's that, Michelle?
I said that's true.
That's it. We're here every week. Today I'm joined, as you just heard, well, firstly by Michelle. How are you doing, Michelle? You all right?
I'm okay. Getting over a cold that I
Getting
apparently
over the
caught in
cold.
my 30 hours of travel back from Bangkok.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all that, the whole WordCamp Asia thing.
Yeah.
That'd be a lovely conversation to have, including the histrionics that everybody seemed to go through in terms of the travel. But I'll do your proper intro if that's all right, Michelle. Michelle Frechette, well, she's regular here. She's on very, very frequently, but not only does she do this, she does a whole laundry list of other things. And here they come. She's the Director of Community Engagement for Stellar WP at Liquid Web. I guess that's the main thing, but here comes all the other things. In addition to working at Stellar WP, Michelle is the podcast barista at WPCoffeetalk.com. Go and download it to your podcast player of choice. She's the co-founder of underrepresentedintech.com, creator of WPcareerpages.com, the president of the board for BigOrangeHeart.org, director of community relations and contributor at poststatus.com, author, business coach and frequent organizer and speaker at WordPress events. Michelle lives just outside of Rochester, New York, where she's an avid nature photographer. And should that not be sufficient, you can go and find more about her on her website. It's called meetmichelle.online. Wow. Actually, I seem to remember last time you were on, we came up with at least one more thing that we should have added into there, but I've forgotten what it was now.
Oh, I've got a couple more podcasts now.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah. Well, as always, an absolute pleasure to have you back. And
Thank you.
I'm glad that you got back safely. Also joining us, Andrew Palmer. Hi, Andrew.
Hello.
You're in. Have you painted the backdrop recently? Because it used to be all wooden panelled over there, or is it just?
I moved house. I moved house. I'm still in this similar area. I'm in a place called Chesham in Buckinghamshire, And I'm also getting over a cold that I caught on the plane, or just maybe I caught it in at the end of WordCamp Asia. But I'm kind of breathing, which is good.
Yeah. He's still there. He's still
there.
with us. Well, Andrew's got a very nice long bio as well. And I'll just read it right out at you. Andrew is the co-founder of Bertha AI. You can find that at bertha.ai, which is an awesome opportunity for WordPress users to write where they work. I mean, he's in touch daily with the WordPress community. He offers coaching, advocacy, and support for product makers, companies, and individuals who are aiming to be the very best. He currently is endorsing GridPane, which is a great company offering fantastic hosting management solutions to agencies to start, manage, and give great hosting services to their clients. He's also the founder of WP Plugins Plus, a company based in London and Kolkata, which I'm going to say is Calcutta. And there they make plugins, act as support for various agencies, and offer guided website design and build services. So again, loads. Occasionally we get guests with like the one line. Nah,
No.
not today. I don't have I should have a biography. I talk too much would be what I should put on mine.
I'll write you one.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, keep it brief. But thank you for joining us, you two. Whoa, the comments have gone pretty berserkers. Very nice. If you would like to share this stream, I'd really appreciate that. The more people that drop in and chat live, the more interesting the show always ends up being, frankly. And with that in mind, the best place to go and do that is to go to wpbuilds.com/live. That's where we've got the video embedded. It's YouTube. So if you go there and you're logged into a Google account, you can make comments. Some people like to hang out in our Facebook group. And if you want to do that, that's fine as well. But you do have a little thing to go through. Facebook won't share your avatar or image or your name, in fact, unless you do this. You've got to go to chat.restream.io/FB. And I think you just click a button saying authorize or something like that. And then we can see who you are. So, yeah, please feel free to go and share this link, wpbuilds.com/live. Let's see if we can get some more people in the chat. But we've got a few new faces as well as some familiar people. We have, first up, we have Web Squadron. Hello, saying hi all. Thanks very much for joining us. Tina Cook. She got the memo, Andrew. She read the email, so it works.
It does work. Yeah, there's loads of people on our site currently because of that email, so that's good.
Nice. Yeah, that's great. You're checking out the analytics as you go. Good morning, team, says Mark. Mark, we're going to be talking about you later. So,
Really?
Very quickly, only briefly. There's only so much you can say about
Mark. It's always
Mark.
about him.
It's always about Mark, isn't it? That's the title of this episode. It's always about Mark. I write it down each time. It's always about Mark. There we go. Unless something better crops up, that's going to be the title. Hope you all had a good weekend, says Rob Cairns, all the way from Toronto. Aaron Edwards saying, hey, hi all. Three of my favourite people. Oh, that's nice. Andrew Palmer in the house. Various mentions of different people's names, like Hey Andrew and things like that. And then, thank goodness, the universe can carry on as normal because Peter Ingersoll has dropped his weekly weather report of the weather in Connecticut. He does this every week. It's brilliant. It's 9 a.m. in Connecticut, where it's getting close to our expected high of 7 degrees centigrade, 45 degrees Fahrenheit. He's even got the emojis. Thank you, Peter. Absolutely love it. Oh, my goodness. Look, and then there's replies about the weather. Tina's saying it's 26 Celsius in South Africa, and it goes on and on and on. I suspect that comment about Mark is probably going to be the backdrop to the entire episode. Now, look, Mark, it's ChatGPT talking about you. AI will be the thrust of so many things, I'm sure, today. We're going to be talking about Bertha a little bit later, but let's just crack on, shall we? Let me share my screen. Okay, this is the WP Builds website. You can see that we are kindly supported by GoDaddy Pro. They keep the lights on over here, so thank you so much to them. If you fancy subscribing, you know what to do. Put your email address in this little button, this little text field, and then click subscribe. We'll send you a couple of emails a week each time we produce new content. Nothing more, nothing less. I've got a couple of promo bits, which I'll chuck in right at the start. The first one is to say that in a week's time, just over a week, 8 days' time, I'm going to be chatting live with Pete Chineri That is on the 14th of March. We do our regular, kind of monthly, if we can fit it in, UI UX show. And Peacher's always on the lookout for some new websites, something that you've built, half built, or on the way to finishing or pushing live. She's a bit of an expert with all this kind of stuff, and she gives free advice on the show. The URL for this is wpbuilds.com/UI. And over there, you can fill out a form and give us some various details like the website URL and so on and so forth. We're also interested in finding deceptive designs, aka dark patterns, things on the website that really annoy you because they're deliberately done to trick you or catch you out, or you agree to buy some insurance that you had no interest in because the button was bigger than the decline text, that kind of thing. So go and fill that out. That's wpbuilds.com/UI. And here he comes. Mark Westgard, there, look at him. Look at him. It's some
the
kind
man
of
needs
halo
a new headshot.
there. Oh,
he needs
fantastic.
a new headshot.
Yeah, can we make him bigger?
Headshot.
There. How's that? Look. Oh. Dominates the show. Mark Westgard and I and Bob Dunn. It's a full-on trifecta. The three of us are going to be going live the following day after Peacher. It's going to be on Wednesday, the 15th of March, and it's an opportunity really for Mark to demonstrate what WS Form can do. There's no sort of subscribe link. It's going to be at this same URL, wpbuilds.com/live. He's got some prizes lined up. I think he's giving away like cardboard cutouts of people's faces, that kind of thing.
You know what they say, though, right?
Yeah, there's only one available.
Beware the Ides of March.
Yeah, that's right.
That is the Ides of March.
But if you've ever played with a WordPress plugin form plugin, and you haven't really settled on one, WS Form is a solid option. But you may be sort of bamboozled by what's available in there. Well, Mark's the person to answer it. So me, Bob, Mark on the call, taking the questions. We'll see how that goes. And
you can try it the light version. It's on wp.org. So just search for WS Form and you can try the light one, and then you'll go, oh my God, I need this Pro.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it is actually amazing. I just want to make Mark's head big again. There we go. Look.
Please don't.
I do some sort of disco move. Woo! No, oh,
my eyes.
My eyes.
You're gonna make me start coughing.
Let's get it back to normal. So there's this promotional bits. A couple of things coming up on the WP Build side of things, and I thank Mark for being such a good sport. I'm getting him back for the WordCamp Asia cardboard cutout that he had of my head. So there we go. Right, let's get into some WordPressy stuff, shall we? So Anne McCarthy has released an article over on make.wordpress.org. It's called WordPress 6.2 Accessibility Improvements. Do you know what? There's so much in here, but it is just a list of items, but there's an absolute boatload of accessibility improvements that are coming in 6.2. So if anything has been irritating you in prior versions of WordPress from an accessibility point of view, a lot of work has been done. Obviously, this game never ends. There'll be no point at which WordPress is 100% accessible, because not only will the goalposts move, but it's just not really possible to achieve that. But a lot's been done, and I would urge you to go and look at Anne's piece. It was published on the 2nd of March. I think, Andrew, you had a close read of this. Was there anything in particular that stood out?
Just an example of how much actually has to go into this is just click the first link, which announces when a block is inserted in the navigation.
This one here, this 406, this one.
Just click that first link. So that's another tome, basically, of what's going on and all the conversations going on. What astounded me is that the reason for this is for people to know when a block has been initiated. So there's like a noise, it's a noise that gets announced, because people with limited access, i.e. by not having great sight, are working on WordPress and building WordPress websites, and they're basically blind. So they need an announcement when they've actually put in a new block. But the problems with that is when that new block is put in, it gets announced every time you load that page. So and throughout this discussion, that says how are we going to get over that? And that's the key. When you look at the page by Anne, and then you dive deeper into it, it is a minefield of issues, basically.
Yeah.
So, how anybody, especially, this is all volunteers, let's not forget. They're all trying to do their very best on this. And I think accessibility by able-bodied people is pretty much not ignored, but just kind of not really thought about, because I can move my mouse around. I know when I've inserted a box, I can see it. So this is really, really, really important, and I'm getting definitely on the accessibility bandwagon here. To say we've got to really think about what we're doing accessibility-wise, and I'm certainly putting that into all the plugins that I own and develop as well, trying to get them more accessible. It's hard, but it's got to be done, really.
Yeah, I think you're right. And so if we go back to Anne's article, the announcement of a block being inserted, as you say, with some kind of noise, just one little thread, and you can see at the end of each of these little lines. So, for example, fix various off-Canada appender accessibility issues. The beauty of the WordPress project is it's so well curated, and people like Anne do a great job. You can see here's no, not that one. Here we go. Another whole laundry list of things that have been considered just for that line item. And for each of those items, you'll notice there's a GitHub repo post as well. And there's just so much in here. But have a play. Beta 4 for WordPress came out, I think it was probably about 3 or 4 days ago. Maybe it was the 1st of March, something like that. I had quite a long play with the site editor. I wasn't looking at it from an accessibility point of view, but there's so much that's coming in 6.2. It is well worth having a little advanced look. If you want to download it, you can do that from the WordPress website, but also there's a beta tester plugin that you can install, and if you check the right boxes, it will immediately overwrite your version of WordPress with the beta bleeding edge version, as it's called. So yeah, thank you, Anne, for writing up that piece. That was great. Anne, sorry, Michelle, anything? Sorry.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Number one, we worried about accessibility from a site visitor perspective for the longest time, right? Making sure that site visitors had accessibility without looking at the back end of WordPress to make sure that people who are blind or visually impaired were not being able to build websites as easily because the back end wasn't. And WP Campus was one of the primary organizations which really put a thrust forward to do accessibility audit of the back end of WordPress. And so I wanted to just acknowledge that first. And then this list is phenomenal. Of course, it's never going to be quite enough, right? Because there's always more things we could do to make things accessible. And so continuing to move forward on that is something that we need to continue to put that impetus on, just as like we're starting to worry more about multilingual backends of WordPress. The second thing I wanted to point out, though, is at the top, if you look at the collaborators on this article, I wanted to point out Alex Stein. So Alex Stein is somebody whose day job is not even in WordPress anymore. But Alex does a tremendous amount of work within the WordPress community to help do site audits, make sure that sites are accessible, and teach about accessibility. He also, we're going to talk a little bit later about the foundation that has been created, and he is one of the first recipients of the I can't think of a grant or a fellowship through fellowship. Yeah. So all of this kind of all ties together, and just wanting to make sure that we also give props to Alex for all the work that he's doing in the WordPress community.
Because that segue was so good, let's just bump that right up to now, shall we? So we were going to move on to this toward the end. This came onto my radar because I did a podcast episode which will be released on Wednesday with Say Reed and Courtney Robertson, both probably familiar names if you're in the WordPress community and look on socials and things. And they were two people who were willing to come on and talk to me about the WP Community Collective. I mean, I can paraphrase it, Michelle, but I feel like you're in a better position to do that probably. Do you want to just say what this is? No, you're not. No.
I know as much as you do. You probably know more than I do, having had that. So I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, well, this is a fabulous. Honestly, we had some gremlins, right, doing the audio, which means that I had to listen. Say's internet just kept sort of dropping and coming in and going out. So there was lots of bits in the podcast where we sort of cross-talked and had to re-say things. And so I had to go back and edit it really carefully. So it really I learned a lot because I just kept hearing it over and over again, if you know what I mean. So this is such a fabulous initiative. And it all comes back to this idea that, okay, what I'm about to say may not sit well with some people, but I'm going to say it anyway. The idea is the people who can afford to contribute to WordPress are the people who can literally afford to contribute to WordPress. In other words, they're either in the position where they're independently wealthy enough that they can take time out of their working week, or they've gotten to a point where they're sponsored by a company who's willing to give them, 5%, 10% a day, in some cases an entire 5 days a week towards the WordPress project. But that is, I don't want to use the word privilege, but you could understand, looking at it from the outside, looking in, you might be able to make the argument, wow, those people are in a fairly privileged position. And now, don't get me wrong, in most cases, I'm sure that's off the back of a lifetime of incredibly hard work. But what about all those people who just don't have that capacity? They don't have enough money available to them to take time out. They don't have an employer who's willing to do that, but they have the skills, they have the desire, they have the commitment. Wouldn't it be nice if we could figure out a way to get them some money, essentially, and a roster of work for them to do, and get them contributing in? So the WP Collective is going to reach out to businesses, organizations, corporations, and create fellowships with a specific remit. So the first one is, coincidentally, accessibility. And they're going to put a body of work together and say, well, we need 15, 25, whatever, $1,000. Please, can we get you companies over there? Can you contribute to this? And then we can get the people who are going to be good for this work, regardless of whether or not they've been able to afford it in the past. And we will give them that fellowship, and off they go and they can do it. So it's kind of, WP Collective sits in the middle. There's the actual contributors on one side, and on the other side, you've got the businesses paying in. And it just seems like this really great symbiotic relationship. And I should breathe. But that's
isn't it five for the future, but with cash?
I guess in a sense.
Yes and no.
Yeah, yes and no. The idea here, though, is that, let's say, for example, you work at bighostingcompany.com, but you've got no commitment into the WordPress community. You just have loads of cash, but you want to contribute, but you don't know where to contribute or how to do that. You can just give the WP Collective money. They are a 503c or whatever the American term
501c3.
501c3. Thank you. I have no idea. They're one of those. And so they just act as an intermediary. They'll look after the money and then make sure that it is spent correctly. And then there'll be an obligation of the people who do the work to create things like blog posts, in a sense, to sort of reflect back, this is what we did. Look, your money was well spent. Let's have some more money, kind of thing. So, yeah.
One of the things, too, is to remember that it isn't just big corporations that are going to fund this. Hopefully we'll see some big infusions of cash from the big corporations, but it's also individuals. If you pull up Courtney's comment on the screen, you can see that. As soon as I heard this, like I put some money into this because it's definitely worthwhile. I come from a place of privilege. I can afford to put a little bit of money into that. So I did. And I wish that other people would do the same and follow suit. But I also want to kind of commend this too, because there's an intersection between here and what happens with, organizations like Underrepresented in Tech, which is not a 501c3. And we don't ask for money. So we want you to put your money into the WP Community Collective. But they both are actually helping move forward equality and equity in WordPress as well, by making it possible for people who don't have giant corporations giving them paychecks to be able to contribute to WordPress. And so I think it's a wonderful initiative. And I really do hope more individuals will get involved in funding it. And also, of course, those corporate dollars.
Andrew, did you have anything you wanted to add to this?
5013C, does that, if a corporation, an American corporation contributes to that, is that a tax deductible?
It is, yes.
Right, okay. So how do UK businesses contribute and get that benefit of tax deductible as well? Or
they can't. If I was to give to a UK charity, I don't get a tax benefit either. Sure. It's unfortunate, but that's the way it is.
It is an incentive. I mean, if someone's giving, say, 50 grand, it's quite a big tax incentive for the US based companies, isn't it, to be able to contribute?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yep.
Yeah, do you know, I didn't even get into that. I didn't, that's why you're in business, Andrew, and I'm not. I didn't even get into that in the conversation.
Doesn't mean I do it very well.
It just didn't even occur to me, that side of things. So there's an upside just from a pure taxation point of view. It's a good thing to put money in if you're a US based business, because there's a little bit of a loss in the amount of tax that you'll be required to pay. Yeah, it's fascinating. Courtney's in the comments, actually. This is great. This is perfect. She says Alex will receive the funding, the fellowship funding from WPCC when the goal is met. If you go to, I believe the URL is theopencollective.com/WPCC. I don't know if one of you guys can dig that out, but I'm pretty sure that's it. I'll put it in the show notes as well. But the idea is that these fellowships, they demarcate a particular job. So it's an accessibility one, or it might be SEO one, or a performance one, whatever has been decided. Then a funding goal is set for that. Fellowships are applied for by individuals, and they marry the two up. And once the funding is met, it's released to the individual who, in inverted commas, wins the fellowship. The WPCC, Courtney says, is available for individuals and organizations to collect resources sponsored. It'll be focused on the work of official WP teams, events, etc. Yes, I'd forgotten that. So it's official channels. And Andrew, our fiscal host, is Open Collective, and they do work globally. Offhand, I don't know the answer. However, we can dig in. Yeah, I remember it was either Courtney or Say in the podcast said that there is a benefit for them going through the Open Collective. It means that they don't have to do some kind of work in terms of taxation, or I can't remember, but there was a reason that they did it that way. Oh, great. Thank you. So the URL, let me just create a little caption to show it. That'll do it. There we go. Is this. Go to opencollective.com/the WPCC, no underscores or anything like that. Opencollective.com/the WPCC. Yeah, that did all tie well together, didn't it? We had Alex.
Yeah.
And then
the accessibility fellowship is only funded at 8% right now. So absolutely get on there, bring your dollars, and help get this moving forward so that we can fund Alex's fellowship. And others,
one of the curious things about doing the podcast is I get to speak to a lot of plugin developers, and I feel like a lot of them would really love to do this, but they're in that position where, they're just trying to launch their career. They're just trying to begin. And so money's tight. Putting food on the table is priority number one, but they've got the skills, they've got the initiative, they've got all that they need. They just don't have the finance. So yeah, go and check it out. This is a good little project. Okay. Whew, that was a good one. Andrew, just before we move on, was there anything else you wanted to add to that, or should we slide into
No, I think it's great, and it should be supported. And it's a way to get funding to people that deserve it and also are very talented.
Yeah.
And can contribute in a meaningful way.
Yeah, thank you. That's great.
Sounds a bit corporate, that, but that's what I mean.
No, I think that was about the tenor of it, wasn't it? Okay, let's go on to talk about photographs. Why not? I don't know if you've heard of Openverse. Again, Michelle, I feel that you're in a better position to tell people about Openverse, given your massive interest in photography and all of that kind of stuff. Maybe not. Do you want to tell us what Openverse is, or shall I do that?
You go ahead, and I'm going to look in the WordPress photo directory.
You correct.
Stats in a minute.
Essentially, Openverse is a CC0. So it's my understanding is that if you get a photograph off Openverse, you are more or less guaranteed that it's usable by you anywhere. You can amend it. You don't have to give attribution and all that. There may be caveats around that. But the point is there's absolutely tons of images in Openverse which you are free to use. However, the way that things currently are is you've got to go to Openverse, probably download the image, a bit like you might do off something like Unsplash or something like that. Download the image, upload it to your media library, and then get to work. Wouldn't it be better, given that the Openverse is now under the auspices, I think, of Automatic? It might be some other branch of Automatic, I don't know, but I think it's Automatic. Wouldn't it be a good idea to have all of this built into the editing experience of WordPress, the block editor? And the answer is yes. So that's coming in WordPress 6.2. There'll be an option to go to Openverse. It'll open up a little panel. You can search within the posts and page editing experience. And then when you finally find an image, you just basically click on it and in it goes. Da-da, magic, super cool experience. However, there's a few questions raised this week. This article is on WP Tavern. It was Sarah Gooding. She was expressing the concern of some people that in the original implementation of this, it was being hot linked from wherever that image was being hosted. Now, this is not ideal because, well, for all sorts of reasons. Number one, your server's having to, people receiving the website have got to go to a whole different bunch of different things. If you've got 10 images, you've got 10 different places to go to find those images. Maybe there was some tracking of pixels in those images. I don't know, that kind of thing. So the question was, why are we doing this? Why don't we just download it the moment that you use it, stick it in your media library? Then if that image ever goes away elsewhere where it was hot linked to, you've still got it. And lo and behold, the WordPress community being awesome, didn't take too long for that to happen. And now that is the expected behavior that we're going to get in WordPress 6.2. So you'll click a button, image will be downloaded onto your media library. I just think this stuff is so cool. It's going to make life just great. Yeah.
Well, I've actually built that kind of thing into Bertha, to be honest.
Yeah. Is that how that works? So hang on. First of all, rewind. What does Bertha do around images?
So images, you can create images within Bertha, but also we've put search in Bertha. And their CCO as well. So you can search if you go to Bertha and you're in the plugin or in the extension, you can actually go to images and then click search. Then you can search all your AI images and copy them, use them as you wish. And if you're in WordPress, you can either resize the image and then upload it to your media file directly, or just upload it to your media file directly if you only want a small image.
So just to give context to that, it's an AI generated image. So it's using Stable Diffusion or
Stable Diffusion, 1.5. Yeah.
Okay, so it's using Stable Diffusion. So it creates the image, shows you a thumbnail, you pick, and when you pick it, it downloads it into your media library and it's yours, right? You've got it.
Yes.
And you can do what you like with it. Okay.
Yeah, but also anyone else can share it. But also on the search facility, you can search for, say, Yoda, and then bring up all the images of Yoda. And then if you want to use a particular one, you just click add to your media library.
So that was the behavior that you came out of the gate with, right? You thought you want that image, you're just going to press a button and it's immediately in. Yeah, because that seems like you're not ever going to want to hot link to anything, are you? That just seems like
we always thought, well, why would you hot link to it? It's just because of you're using someone else's server. That server might go down. Plus, images get deleted after a period of time. There's only a certain amount of time that people can hold millions of images on a server, and they will go through and maybe archive some and say, okay, only 10 people are using this, I'll archive that. But that affects 10 people that are using it. All of a sudden, you just get a placeholder image. But the search facility is actually through Lexica Art, but that's built into Bertha. So you can just search it, download it, use it. It's all CCO. So that means you don't, you've got a free license that anybody can use that image as well, but at least you can search thousands of images that have been pre-generated.
If I search for something, is it looking for text in the prompt that I gave it to create the image? So let's say, for example,
it's when you create an image on Stable Diffusion, it gives it a name and it gives it a reference or a tag. So if you search, for instance, Gothic restaurant, you'll find, it will come up with images with Gothic restaurant in it and stuff like that. So, or coffee shop or whatever. You might want to talk about, nomad working. So you might want to have images of coffee shops. You don't want to look on any other stock photos or pay for them, let's be honest, and so you just search for a coffee shop and use the one out of the search of the AI images. So it's similar to Openverse. It's all free. and you can use them for anything.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool. Michelle, you dropped a comment into our little private chat, which only the three of us can see. What was, do you want me to raise that on the screen? What was that about?
It's up to you. I just, we're talking about Openverse and of course the WordPress photo directory project, which I'm very fond of, is part of that. And so I just I just did a quick, in the site, just did a quick copy paste of what the photo directory looks like right now, as far as the number of images, etc., which I thought was interesting, right? So
6,393, of which a fairly decent percentage belong to you. 133.
I should have taken that part
out.
What's the
rejected ones? I mean, you've got rejected 802. What's the criteria
faces?
for
I bet it's
uploading
faces.
photos?
Oh, it's any number of things. So it could be identifying information, so faces for sure, license plate numbers, things that are an absolute street address of a residential home, for example. If the quality is too poor, if it's pixelated, there's blur motion. There's a lot of reflection off of windows. If you're taking it through a window, for example, there's lots of reasons that we might reject a photo. I never reject photos for this, but I want to all the time. If your horizon is crooked, please correct your horizons. Please correct your horizons before you submit a photo.
So you're actually one of the people that approves them. So will you eventually accept AI images, or don't you accept AI generated images? What are your thoughts around that?
That we are not accepting images, we are accepting photographs. So it is a photograph. So an AI generated image is not a photograph.
Gotcha. Okay, so it's very clear. Very clear. Cool.
I wonder how long that'll be the case, though. That before it's nigh on impossible to tell a photograph from an AI generated image, which is trying to look like a photograph. We'll have to wait and see. I guess if you're an expert photographer, you'll probably know the difference.
I'll test it out next week. See how it goes.
Look, the C's upside down. That's definitely fake.
I will say that it is human beings that are moderating the photos, and human beings can be tricked by certain things. I would hate for that to actually be the intent of somebody submitting an image, though. So Andrew, don't make me ban you from the photo.
Do you know what I always find? If I ever look at a stable diffusion created image of a person, it's always the fingers which give it away. There's like 9 fingers, or the fingers just overlap.
Hot dog fingers.
There was a great article in the Observer or the Independent or the other day. I wish I'd put that in the link, but it was basically saying why, and it's because most photography doesn't show fingers. If you look at the stock photos and everything, it's people operating behind a computer, or they might be shaking hands or something at a distance, but it's because the reference points aren't enough, so that AI basically doesn't know how to create fingers. And they did a clasping hand, and it was something out of a horror movie. Horrible.
Something out of Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just these giant bananas.
Everything Everywhere All at Once. Watch that film if you haven't watched it.
Yeah, but if you look at us right now, there's no fingers. There's just
Here's my fingers, AI.
Yes, but only for a brief moment. It's not enough time for the AI. Can I ask you a question, just to stay on the AI thing just for a minute? Because we've often strayed into this subject. I know it's not specifically WordPress, but I'm curious. How's the debate going in terms of recognition for let's stay with photos, right? How's that debate moving forward? Because I know there's a lot of artists who take pictures or have drawn things or painted things.
There's an ongoing court case, but I think Stability AI have just got some more money as well, and let's not forget that Stability AI are also open source. So if you're using another service to produce Stability AI photographs like Replicate or Hugging Face or something like that are using the open source from Stability AI, then you're paying them, and they've got their own terms and conditions of what you do with the images as well. But you can actually build your own server using using Stability AI's code. It's just expensive, right? So the debate is going on between photographers. Getty particularly are taking Stability AI to or Stable Diffusion to court, saying you scanned our images, you're replicating them, and we know that you're replicating them because at the bottom of each image is Getty Images logo, you know, or
Right.
or a mashed up version of Getty Images. What AI people are saying is that we're not copying your images per se. We've just seen those as an example, and that's how our machine learning has worked. It's taking your images along with millions of other images and then collating all that information together to produce another image. And because, you know, obviously we scanned your website and we scanned Adobe, stock.adobe.com and all, you know, Unsplash and everything, there are going to be some anomalies with your logos appearing. But I don't know, it's an ongoing court case, and it will, you know, these companies got hundreds of millions of dollars of investment, and we know that the court cases in the US take years to fix. But, you know, if anyone's going to want to win it, it's going to be Getty. And Getty are saying they don't want to win it in per se. They want to just have an acknowledgement that licensing fees are due, which is what they are, because they're known as the ambulance chasers of photographic libraries, right? So you've all heard of the 200 by 200 pixel picture, and it's cost someone 20 grand, you know, after they've left it on there for 3 years, and then all of a sudden one of a lawyer from Getty goes, you owe us 12 grand. You go, oh, you know.
It's a really interesting debate, because obviously, you know, something which is similar but not the same is songwriting. So, you know, the Beatles can go after anybody now because there's like 4 notes in a row which give you the impression that it sounds a bit like Yesterday or something like that. And so it's a tiny bit of a song, but and they win those things, don't they? So if you
they do, but they're starting to lose them more and more.
Right.
You know, judges are becoming, you know, there's like 12 notes, right, or 12 chords, or 6, you know, however many chords there are. Mozart said it, doesn't he? What do you want me to do with 12 chords? You know, of course.
Yes,
you know, but and with writing, you know, if you write an article on artificial intelligence and I write an article and Michelle writes an article on artificial intelligence, there's going to be similarities, one would hope, right? There's just going to be similarities, even if we didn't, you know, I will use artificial intelligence to write it, but, you know, if you don't, there's still going to be similarities to what we're doing. You've read books. They're films. There's films that come out at the same time that are about the same subject, you know. So how do you get there? You've got Star Trek, you've got Star Wars, which one copied which, you know, all this kind of, you know, stuff. It's just, plagiarism is part of our life, and we're just going to have to live with it. And you know, it's not,
we've
taking people to court every day is just not going to help the situation.
No, I do know what you mean. We've strayed into this AI thing on so many occasions. I personally find it to be a really interesting subject, and I'm sort of slightly conflicted about what I think about it. Not because I think there's anything weird about it. I'm just concerned at the pace of it and whether or not we've got enough guardrails for unexpected things that might happen in the future.
It's not going actually as fast as it can.
Oh, well, that's I'm pleased about that. That's good news.
It's just the hype. You know,
but it's also the incentives to me. It's whether or not the incentives for it are in line with what humanity needs. You know, forget it. Let's not get into that.
It's more that the uptake on it, right? So more and more people are using it. That's what's going at breakneck speed right now. You know, it's actually, yes, it's moving quickly, perhaps not as quickly as it could, which is probably a good thing as well. I don't drive I've never driven my car as fast as it can go, which is also a good thing. But but that doesn't stop people from driving cars, right? So so I think more and more people are experimenting with it, using it. I'm going to use it to write Nathan's bio, so we'll see how that goes.
Good luck with that.
I just need to do a caveat there. I drove my car as fast as it could go on an autobahn.
Oh, so get that in quickly.
Completely legal. And I blew it up.
Oh no! This whole thing started not about AI. We were talking about Openverse and about the implementation in WordPress 6.2,
which is a great integration, by the way. You know, let's not forget
really nice. Great. You know, we've never had it in the CMS so that you could just chuck an image in without the need to go anywhere else, and now you totally will be able to do that.
Didn't Unsplash do that as a plugin?
Say again.
Didn't Unsplash do it as a
Yes,
plugin?
sorry, I don't mean that plugins couldn't have enabled it, but this will just be core WordPress. You know,
Sure.
you'll just download it from WordPress.org and it'll have that capability built in. So for a
Which
lot of
makes
people,
blogging more easier, which then
Yeah.
discounts the there's an article that we're going to talk about not blogging.
do you know what? We're doing like so many good segues today. Let me try and find that one quickly because that,
It's there.
again,
It's
it fits perfectly, doesn't it?
WP Marmite, yeah.
Yeah, this is an article on the WP Marmite website, and it really, I have no idea why this hit home so much, but it really did to me. The question posed by them is, what if WordPress moved on from blogging? And just hold on a minute, right? Let me explain. What they're trying to say is basically when you build websites, let's say that's for clients or for yourself, how many times out of 100 websites is the blog functionality used? Now, for me, obviously with the podcast and all, that's 100% of it. It's all blog posts basically. But if I'm building a client website, let's say, I don't know, local plumbing company or something like that, you can sell them up on the idea of a blog and they'll probably go, yeah, we'll commit to that. We'll do a blog post each week. You know, you come back 6 months later, how many articles have they written? None, not one. And so WP Marmite is saying, wouldn't it be interesting if we added the functionality for blogs as a canonical plugin, as a plugin? So without that plugin, posts have gone, categories for posts and all of that have gone, and they show what the interface would potentially look like. Let me just find it. Was that it there? Yeah, there you go. You basically have a dashboard which says pages, media, appearance, plugins, users, and you could obviously put the blog back in, install the plugin. Everything that you've now got comes back. But most people don't need it. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? In many cases, I think that's true. Do I want to fiddle with WordPress that much? Probably not. But in some subset of cases, would this be a good idea? Yes. And of course, there is a plugin that you can download to get rid of the blog. So it is actually possible, but you've got to add a plugin as opposed to putting a plugin to put the blog back.
Can I give my 2 cents as
I'd love to hear it,
a non-WordPress developer as well?
Yeah.
So I don't kill me here. I develop Shopify sites, Wix, Squarespace, and everybody goes, can I have a blog, please?
Yeah, there you go.
Just like WordPress. So
do
I
they
think
ever
it's
use
kind
it,
of
though?
I don't. I haven't got. I've never had a customer say I don't want a blog. Never.
No.
Ever.
Interesting.
So it's just like a non. What they do say is that can we not have comments? So I always add no comment plugin. Because running a blog, if you're going to run a blog as an affiliate, that you need a blog platform, because that's WordPress. That's what WordPress is good for. It's great for SEO and all that kind of stuff. And Google likes posts rather than pages. It's just weird. But you've got everybody I know, every client I've ever had, no matter what platform we've been on, Drupal, all of the platforms, Joomla. I mean, Joomla was a fantastic blogging platform and so search engine friendly. It was unbelievable. But then they do their iterations, which means you have to redesign every single site every time Joomla's been updated.
Yeah.
Crazy. But that's what makes WordPress brilliant, the backward compatibility. But the fact that people wouldn't want a blog is it's alien to me. It's completely alien.
Yeah.
And I'm not old school, I'm forward thinking. I'm totally forward thinking. But I just think, why wouldn't you want a blog?
So I've had the opposite, right? So I've done in the past, I'm actually working on one right now, a site for somebody that it's basically a brochure site. Yeah. So they are arborists. They take down trees, they remove stumps. There's not a lot of blogging that these people want to or are able to do without hiring somebody outside to come in and write blog posts for them, which is not in their budget. So to them, having a blog is like a foreign thing, right? So the most they might do is if we could turn maybe 3 or 4 articles, but we wouldn't call it a blog. We would just call it articles about arbory or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot. Yeah. So like the thought of blogging for a lot of small businesses who are just looking to have a claim on the web where they can be found, people can get their Google listing, etc. A blog doesn't make a lot of sense for a lot of those people.
I get it.
Just
I get it.
time wise or money wise, even if there is enough material to put a blog out there for.
Sure.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember having quite a lot of conversations with people over the years, and they genuinely couldn't get the difference between a post and a page. They just couldn't. Okay, so posts, they're kind of repeatable. You write them and then they go into what? But that's the same. I mean, it looks the same. Everything's the same.
I tend not to bother to explain it to them.
Yeah, just click post.
I skip that bit, because you just don't need to know. Don't worry about it. We're your web developer. You go on making your pink widgets. You'll be good.
Yeah. Well, I thought this was a fascinating piece anyway. WP
sure.
Marmite have got it on there. It was an article inspired by Jack Kittahing, looks like.
Kittahing, yes.
And it's linked in the post. I just thought it was curious. I honestly, I could see that in many cases, this would be an interesting option. But I feel that like the journey that WordPress has been on, it would almost be sacrilege to strip out the blogging bit because that's its roots, right?
Also, like, is it really that much of a bloat to just not use the blogging capability?
No.
Of course not, right? So,
There you go.
I mean, blog posts and pages are basically just different types of post types, right? So, what is the difference, really?
We've gone full circle, haven't we? We want the blog. Keep the blog. What if WordPress?
I have a lot of customers that don't use it. So what? We just don't use it. That's all.
I mean, I guess you could even just hide the menu item, couldn't you, if you really were fussy about it? Anyway, that was an interesting, and we segued into it beautifully. So let's carry on where we were going to get to.
I just wanted to going next.
There's no way I'm going to be able to summarize this except to say that Anne McCarthy has written she's written a book. I mean, I don't know how to describe it. Look at this, right? I'm just going to scroll, right? And I'm going to be scrolling pretty darn quickly. So this is Anne McCarthy's. Boy, look at it. Look at it.
Anne is brilliant.
I just wonder how Anne ever gets any sleep.
She's an AI. That's that is.
Crazy.
She's written this piece 1st of March. Well, I expect it's been a long time in the making. It's called WordPress 6.2 Source of Truth. And essentially, she just wanted to put down one article where everything about 6.2, the release, could be found. And that's exactly what she's done. It is a gigantic read. But if there's anything confusing you about 6.2, if you're worried about it, you are going to have to explain a lot to your clients. So this is the place to go. And you'll be able to find absolutely everything. And there you go.
Well, actually, can I just segue again into AI?
Too good.
And it's not my product. It's a guy called Aaron Edwards at Ugly Robot on Twitter, who's developed WP Docs. So if you've got a question about WordPress, just go to WP Docs.
We actually tried this last week on the show. Now, I wonder if I can find it. Is it that wpdocs.co? No, advanced probably isn't that. I probably don't want to click that, do I?
Yeah, probably Google or something.
No, it wasn't that. We had it on last week's show. Maybe it's that wpdocs.io.
That'll be the one.
Oh, no, it's this one, ChatWP, that one.
Oh, is it? WP
That's
Docs.
No. Yeah, it's
but basically ask him anything about WordPress. I mean, it's quite clever what he's doing, and there's a lot of people out there. There's a guy that's just produced another AI plugin where you can upload all your documentation and it'll answer all questions. And people are thinking about using it for first line support, but I think Aaron's the first one to really get it up and going. And this is probably part of the danger of working or working in public, because Aaron is very much on Twitter, telling people what he's developing and why he's doing it, and then somebody goes in and jumps in, and I'm guilty of that as well. I thought, well, I like that idea, I'll put that in Bertha. He's very affable about it, and he's the actual CTO of WPMU Dev, so he's a busy guy. And he was like Michelle, I just don't know how you all do these things. I mean, people say that I'm busy, right? But I'm just not when you compare me to people like Michelle and Aaron. They just get on with it. But the key is that he does so much, and he's doing this as, I think this was a test, and now he's doing it as a commercial thing for people to really up their game in using chatbots and the information that chatbots can give back to customers in first line support and also knowledge bases. It's crazy.
Andrew,
good.
is this Aaron? We've got him in the comments, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Aaron, I tried this last week on the show, and I must admit, I think we plumbed in about one or maybe two different things, and we didn't get too much back that we were able to use. So if Aaron is still watching and he wants to drop in a couple of useful questions that would demo how it worked, I'd really appreciate that, and we could show that live. That would be really nice. Just going back 2 minutes or so, back onto Anne and her amazingly long piece. Courtney's in the comments. She said that the source of Truth Doc helps docs training marketing teams and also the WP ecosystem like host plugins, themes, SaaS related businesses. She says, excuse me, we take the source of truth, write the docs, training content, then others pick up on it. Just purely by random. Apparently, it's
happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Anne.
Nobody wants to hear me sing, but yeah, happy birthday. That's great. And then Ben Intal from Stackable. Hi, Ben. Says teaching people the different parts. Oh, so now we're back onto the do we strip out posts and pages and get rid of the blog. Teaching people the difference between posts and pages is up there with teaching the difference between .org and .com. Yeah, it's really obvious, isn't it, Ben? If you use WordPress, it's like it's a blog post. It's going to, it'll have a date attached to it and all that kind of stuff. And there'll be an archive. And yeah, but what? I don't get it. Okay, right. Here we go. Aaron's with us now. He says, sure, click the little circle in the question box and pre-fill example questions on ChatWP. Click the little circle on the question box. This, right? Is that what he's saying? Oh, Aaron.
Well, that's not clear, Aaron. Get that in the flipping. Get that in the tips. Why isn't that in the tips?
Live feedback, Andrew. Okay, so this is like make me a question. Oh, this is much better. Look at that. Okay, so let's go for one that we can actually understand. Okay. We all know the answer to this one. Let's see what happens. It says, so that for those of you that are listening to this, we're in chat.
I'm telling you, if this doesn't bring up Mike Little, there'll be a riot. If Mike Little doesn't come up on this,
it doesn't say co-founder, does it? It says who is the founder. Yes, let's click and see what we get. And so we've clicked the question, who is the founder, singular, of WordPress? The AI appears to be doing a little bit of thinking. So rather than the cursor typing out the words,
this has probably cost Aaron about. Yeah, see, that is so wrong, so wrong. Yeah. Mike Little is the co-founder of WordPress. I am so annoyed that this doesn't happen all the time. He's also in an underrepresented group. He's also one of the nicest guys in the world, and he lives in the United Kingdom.
He lives
and I will
in Manchester,
forever bang this drum that he is being, history is being rewritten. It drives me crazy.
Okay, that was literally the worst question that we could have.
It just drives me crazy, I tell you.
I'm going to ask another one. So I've clicked the little recycle icon. So it's now.
So ask who the co-founder of WordPress is, because
I'm sure that Aaron will be on that. Let's see if he's got a response to that. So now we're asking the AI list the default blocks in WordPress. So I'm sure that we've got a fair idea of what all of these are.
Aaron says we should ask it who the co-founder is.
Oh, okay. Let's do that after this one. I'll copy and paste that. We'll ask it that exact question.
It should say there are. It should say there are. There isn't one founder. There is a co-founder.
Yeah.
It's very important to acknowledge co-founders. Vito Peleg is co-founder of Bertha.ai. I'll never. Whenever anybody says, "Oh, it's a great idea, Andy," I say, "Yeah, well, it's Vito's idea as well. Get in there. It's important."
We have the answer to that question. That looks right to me. I'm sure there's some other ones, but anyway, there we go. Right. Okay. Let's ask it that question. Who were now is co-founder, is that hyphenated or is it just one word?
It should work it out.
Okay, let's hyphenate it. Who were the co-founders of WordPress?
Who are? They're still alive, hopefully.
Who are? Okay, let's go. Let's ask it. Let's see what we get. Who are? That's true. Yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? Let's see if we get the right answer. So it's spinning. The co-founders, yes.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. So redemption.
Small redemption.
It's got the question right. Okay, so thank you for introducing that back to us, Andrew. That's perfect. If you've got a question about WordPress's code base and things like that, and I'm just going to go through, here's a few of the random questions which get generated. What are custom post types and how do I create one? How do you list cron events with WP CLI? Show an example.
That's quite a complex question and answer, that one.
Yeah, I think that was the problem last week. We didn't really know what the scope was, and so we asked it to create things like code and stuff like that. And it
it doesn't do that. No, do that.
But there we go. Thank you, Aaron, for being a good sport about that, and hopefully that's got us in the right direction. Blimmin' heck, we can talk, the three of us, can't we?
Follow at Ugly Robot on Twitter, because he's a leader in AI stuff.
They do a lot. They do a lot in the AI space.
Yeah.
Imagine and
Imagine, it's great. It does some great stuff.
Okay, so that was Anne's blog. Right, let's move on. Okay, this in the same way that we always seem to talk about AI, we always seem to get into this debate about Twitter dying and all of this kind of stuff. I just wanted to mention that there were 5 people on Mastodon, all of whom have instances. So it was Daniel from WP Toots, there was Javier from WP Mastodon, there was Praetor, I guess, I'm not sure how you pronounce the name, from WP Social. There was Simon from DWP, and there was me from the WP Builds .social. And very nicely, Daniel put together a survey, and the results will come out soon about, what do you want to see in terms of WordPress and Mastodon. But I don't really want to get into that conversation because we haven't seen the results yet, and the survey's now been closed. I wanted to get into the conversation of whether or not you've still got trust in Twitter, whether or not you still think it's the town hall, and whether it's got any use for you in the future. What did you say?
Did we ever have trust in Twitter?
I was reading something on the BBC, I believe it was today, and it was literally today that it was published. And it was a piece all about the fact that somebody on the team that was there until very, very recently had either been made redundant or had walked out, and was saying that really the whole thing is now being held together with a skeleton crew of people who are just constantly fighting fires. And it was on that basis really that I wondered whether or not the trust was eroding a little bit, and whether or not you saw something like Mastodon as a good alternative. You can see from this piece that I've got on the screen that my skin has definitely moved. I mean, I never really understood Twitter anyway, but I do like the idea of open source things. I like the idea of not being fed algorithmic content, which might enrage me, or at least might put things in my way which are just going to cause addiction, if you know what I mean. And Mastodon doesn't do any of those things. It felt to me like 3 months ago that the direction of travel was all in the direction of Mastodon, but I'm not sure if that steady stream of people flowing out of Twitter has kept up, or whether everybody's just sort of forgotten to leave Twitter and is hanging out there. Michelle, I know you've got a big following over there and you really enjoy using it, don't you?
I do, and I do still enjoy using it. There are definitely some changes that have happened that are not good changes. So for example, if I go to search somebody that I know and that I know that I'm following, just so that I can make sure I tag them correctly, they're not showing up until I almost finish pushing, like typing their entire handle. So it's trying to feed me other people than who I'm already following or who I'm trying to tag. But they, now, and I honestly can't remember if this has always been the way it is or if it's recent. On my list of like my feed, I can click the For You, which is going to feed me things that it thinks I like, in addition to who I'm following, or I can just click following, and then I'm only going to see the people that I follow and what they're doing on Twitter. So there are some changes that have happened. I'm not going to ever speak well of Elon Musk. I am not a fan, but I do still use Twitter. I think that most of our customers are still on Twitter, and our customers are still on Twitter with what, the different things that I'm behind there. So I don't know. I think it's hard to get a new social media to really pick up speed and really start to engage everybody. I think that there's enough of a learning curve in Mastodon still with all the different servers and how that works to be able to find somebody and follow them. I think there's enough of a learning curve there that's still a stumbling block for a lot of people. I am there. I don't really post there much. I'm constantly just following people back who follow me. But I don't know what the right answer is. I know that like I used to be like this huge Facebook user, and now I'm a Facebook reactor. I only use Instagram to post my own personal pictures so that I have a little album. And no, that's not the only place I put my photos. So if somebody says, well, if it goes away, you lose all your photos, I still save them in other places as well. But it's a nice place to have a public album of the work that I'm doing, those kinds of things. But for me, Twitter is still relevant, and whether it goes away and completely, crashes and all the scaffolding falls away, that's something that will remain to be seen. But at this point in time, it's still something that I'm spending time with.
Yeah. Andrew, anything on that?
Yeah, I've never signed up to Mastodon. I've signed up to Tumblr again. I had an old Tumblr account, and then it was getting a bit nasty in there, so I thought, no, I'm not going to go there anymore. But Matt seems to have cleaned it up, and it's also using Gutenberg, so that's interesting. When you're posting,
yeah, I saw that.
So
yeah,
that's a kind of thing. So I think if any WordPress people are going to go anywhere, they should really, and I'm not dissing Mastodon because I don't use it, but really they should go to Tumblr, because if they're going to keep the faith, with our great leader, then go to Tumblr. But it's just,
so I reinstated my Tumblr account that I had a long time ago, and I have been followed by, in the last 3 weeks, probably 20 sex bots on Tumblr. Every single one of them is some half-dressed woman, like total bot account. So I'm not 100% behind Tumblr at this point either. I think that if you put, yes, if I put more into it, I will get more out of it. And I do get followed by those same kind of bots in all of my different social accounts on Twitter that I follow, even company accounts that I'm behind. So the bots are going to be there no matter where you are. But I'm not investing a lot of time in Tumblr yet. And I know that if I did, I'd probably get more out of it. But it remains to be seen whether or not that's really a viable place to be marketing.
This is I'm not trying to promote this, and obviously there's no skin in the game for me promoting it, because it's a free service. But this is the wpbuilds.social install, and you can see it kind of like has broad similarities to Twitter. It's got a real similar kind of look and feel to it. But the nice thing that I like about it is that I get to be the decider, or I could appoint moderators. We get to decide what that community looks like. So in the example that you just described, if we found 20 bots like that showing up, I can just block them, like literally make them go away. They will never be seen by anybody on this instance. They could go and pollute other instances of Mastodon, but we could make them disappear. You can block things in all sorts of ways. And I like that. I like the idea that there's that granular control. But the big thing for me is that there's no algorithm putting that feed together. So, this local feed, this is just the people who are on my instance. So we've got Brian, we've got Bob, we've got Anne, we've got Carrie Dills and a bunch of other people. You can see it. Oh, there's Robert Rowley from Patchstack. You can see it's got a WordPress kind of vibe going on. These are people talking about WordPress. And so if you go there, you're not limited. You can go and follow anybody anywhere else. But if you click on the local timeline option, you are going to get this WordPressy stream, and it's really nice. And there's no, it comes in chronologically.
Doesn't it depend on what you're using social media for? So if I'm using social media for all of the different Stellar WP accounts, for example, I'm using it as a marketing device and an engagement device that way.
That's a good point.
It's not, Mastodon is not going to help me there, or it's going to help me minuscule by the followers that I have over on Twitter and other places. So it really depends on what I'm looking for. And if I'm looking for that engagement around WordPress, I'm probably engaging within different Slack channels, quite honestly, as opposed to just kind of shouting out into the void to see who wants to interact with me, unless I'm doing that just for fun on Twitter, which is also something that I do.
Yeah, I like it. But, I'm not here to sell it to anybody. It's working out for me. I like the look and the feel of it. But
I'm on your server. Don't kick me off.
Oh, no. You're welcome. Everybody's welcome. Well, until it becomes financially unsustainable for me to.
Well, yeah, you have to. Don't you have to pay for the server?
I've got to pay, so I just swallow that cost at the minute. It's just, it's not a lot, so I don't really worry about it. But I believe I put a donate button somewhere, not even a button, but a couple of people have found it and been very generous. So I appreciate that, but that's not what this is about. Anyway, so there was that survey, and probably in the weeks and days to come, we'll follow up and we'll see what the Mastodon community wants it to look like in terms of WordPress. Right, okay, we've got a limited time left available, but this is probably one of the most important bits. I didn't go. You both went to WordCamp Asia. This is a piece by Bob WP. Oh, look at that. And he's basically giving a full appraisal of what he thought the event was like. It boils down to great. He really had a good time. But I haven't spoken to anybody on the show, I don't believe, about what their experiences were. So I'm just going to hand it over to you. Whatever you want to say, whatever the context, tell us about WordCamp Asia. Let's go with, should we go Michelle first?
I also did a write-up that was fairly extensive. I don't know why
sorry.
that's not on the show. No, that's okay. But my write-up was on Post Status, and it started with, I know you're all wondering, and yes, I showered, because one of the things that was super important to me, and I just was so, I shouldn't have to be grateful that people take into account accessibility, but I am grateful when people actually take into account accessibility. From what I saw of the almost 2,000 attendees, I was the only person using a mobility device. But I'm sure there were others who maybe had difficulty walking, or or whatever, or maybe I just didn't see it because there were a lot of people there.
Oh, there were plenty. Yeah,
there was accessibility taken into consideration at almost every turn. The city itself was very accessible. There were very few things that I did not have the ability to access with my scooter and with my different limitations. I found a way into almost every single place I needed to be, with the exception of a couple of parties that were given by different companies who booked on the 32nd floor, and the elevator only went up to 31. And I'm not faulting them. I just was not able to attend. And so I didn't. I went and did something else. But the whole of the event, I know there was one kosher meal that wasn't met, but I think the rest of them were. And so they really took into account some of the things that whether they read my article and took it from there, or whether they had it in place already, I don't know. But they did absolutely take into account the accessibility needs of people, not just myself, as far as food and physical disability accommodations. So I was super happy about that.
Nice.
And then just the event itself was so well run. The signage was everywhere. The signage was easy to find things. The way that the food was distributed was super easy to access. Just everything in general. And the people, holy cow! But the people in Thailand and the people at WordCamp Asia were it was phenomenal. And to be able to see in person, hug, wave, shake hands, whatever people were comfortable with, people I have been friends with, and not just acquaintances, but actual friends with online for 5 or more years, to be actually sitting in the same space and have a face-to-face conversation was just overwhelmingly amazing.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice. Oh, that warms the heart. Andrew.
It was awesome.
Ditto.
Yeah.
No, it's difficult, isn't it? It's like coming on stage after a great comedian. I can't follow that. But basically, I sat with Michelle for a couple of minutes, and she was with one of the organisers, and being very vocal about congratulating the audience, the organiser on it as well. I think what we miss when we say such a great event, and because I'm I'm just commercially minded. We've got to give a shout out to Yoast, who were phenomenal with their parties, were phenomenal with their stand. Elementor, again, they had a couple of, live events there as well. They were very vocal. Freemius, the parties that I went to with Freemius, Elementor, and Yoast were basically at every single party and put their hand in their pocket every time. So, shout out to Tees, the current CEO. But GoDaddy as well, massive stand as well, giving nice little giveaways, but bringing the party atmosphere into it and shouting out people and all that kind of stuff. And the smaller sponsors, like, dare I say it, WS
not again.
dare I say it, Atarim. You know, I was on team app at Atarim as well. We went to Phuket for a team building thing for the week before, and then we descended on with, you know, half a dozen people standing on the Atarim stand as well. I met Get Genie, which was great because they're a competitor, and I went, hi. They went, hello. They gave me a T-shirt, which was great, you know. So it shows that the co-opetition of the, you know, Aaron I'm in competition with, but the co-opetition and the community of WordPress is just unbelievable. And that's the thing with WordCamps. You get together. You know, I had a lovely sit-down coffee. I'm very, very honored and lucky to have a sit-down coffee with people. With Michelle, I wanted to have a longer chat with Annie Nimmons. I met her in the hallway and said we must get together, but she was busier than whatever. Couldn't get it. I think I spotted, I was talking to people, and there was a load of people wearing masks, and I thought, I know you, but I literally haven't got time. As you go to, you know, meetings as well, we were, you know, Visa and I were inundated with people going, hi, how are you? You know, and all this kind of stuff. And the developers said, God, you know a lot of people. And we said, well, actually, we're very lucky they kind of know us. So, and the same with Michelle. I mean, Michelle, I think Michelle drives around in her little bike just so that she can run over people, because she gets people that just go, they descend upon her and go, we don't take it. And it's very much like the people just want to meet you and say hi to you.
Well, it helped that I was running a selfie challenge, right? So I ran a selfie challenge.
Yeah, true enough. But, you know, the small sponsors, let's not forget this. That's what I was saying about. Let's not forget the small sponsors. Let's not forget that, you know, Sujay Powell was there. He's just been announced as an investor in you know, joining Automatic as an investor as well. I had a lovely hour's chat with him over a coffee. We had Syed Balki there, was WP Beginner, some big names in the WordPress stuff. Looking around, you know, you can see they're going to pounce on people and say, right, I want to buy you, and all that kind of stuff. And let's not forget the amount of actual business that gets done at WordCamp. You know, there's 100% we're going to hear some mergers or purchases. I think WP Beginner just did an announcement. They just bought somebody. They
did last week. I've forgotten now.
So they did WP 101. So, you know, that was done either at a WordPress meetup, or they met up. You know, I know that Chris Lemmer and Sean Heskis and Syed are good friends. So that's probably been going on for a long time. But there is a lot of business done at WordCamps, and that's a good thing. And there's a lot of community building. Who was it? The WP devs were there. 75 of them.
Good grief.
75 huge party of them come over because it's closer to India and Pakistan, you see. So it's only 4 hours. It's not a big deal. So we need, you know, Taipei, we need a WC Asia because it's a massive community. You know, Leslie Sim, fantastic. We all sat down.
It's so good to meet her.
You know, Miriam Schwab, all of the names that you can think of that were there, and very accessible as well. Lovely chats with these people. Brilliant.
Just browsing the website, and there's a
there
picture of with Miriam, by pure coincidence, as you said those
Miriam
words.
and Elaine and Robert and Carol
and
you
and me, tucked in the basket there at the front. We talked about that last week.
Can I also give a shout out to so I did the selfie challenge. I gave $500 if I got 100 selfies to Big Orange Heart, which I got well over 100 selfies. Vikas from InstaWP said, I want to match half of that. And he donated $250 from InstaWP. And then when I posted it on Twitter, Carl Hancock also gave $500 as a result of that. So I just wanted to shout out to those gentlemen for also meeting that challenge and helping fund Big Orange Heart.
Look, here's somebody who wanted to see you but didn't get a chance. Let me just make sure I can get it on the screen. This is Ben again. Ben from Stackable. Got starstruck. Wasn't able to take the selfie. You could have had 101 or whatever your total was. Add one more. But Michelle, thank you for guiding me and my wife to where the venue was. Oh, that's nice.
So there were a lot of couples there.
Follow us.
You know, married couples coming there and everything. So it was like, and families, and that's
whole families.
It was amazing. They provided everything the whole venue was in this shopping mall, which was amazing as well. But I mean, the only thing we suffered from was lift a bit of lift anxiety.
A queue for the elevator. Yeah. So O'Neill has made a comment here. O'Neill was one of the organizers, specifically around speakers, and holy cow, was that run well. So the whole like getting speakers where they needed to be and lined up and all of that was done incredibly well. So thank you, O'Neill, and your team.
This is not meant to come out the way it comes out, right? And I'll go to O'Neill's second comment in a moment. But do you think this like has raised the bar in some important way? Does this event exceed the way that previous WordCamp Europes that you've attended been, or WordCamp US, or was it just sort of like little incremental things? You mentioned the accessibility thing there, Michelle. I just wondered if that was just one aspect that you thought was good and the rest of it was, as normal.
I haven't been to WordCamp
yet,
so I can't speak to that.
I'll speak for Europe. I mean, this was on a par with Berlin.
Nice.
Porto was brilliant. The best WordCamp I've been to in Europe. It's a dead heat with Serbia and Berlin. Berlin was absolutely phenomenal. There were as far as I could see, there were no accessibility issues there. But I'm not a wheelchair user or a trolley user, and currently I'm not on crutches, because normally I break my ankle once a year. But so there's no real accessibility issues. But the organisation, the food, WC Asia got it right. Missed out one opportunity to have kosher. We forget how many people eat kosher, and that needs to be catered for, but that was corrected within a heartbeat. So, and I think that's the key, that when something is pointed out very politely and very appropriately, like Michelle points stuff out, if you talk to Michelle and you have slightly crossed a line in something, Michelle is fantastic at telling you with kindness that you've crossed that line. It's amazing. So, the point is that they missed one thing, but it's a very important thing. So that's pointed out to them in a very, very nice way, and then it's just corrected. And I think that's maybe what made a difference at WP Asia, and also the size of the event, and also they had to deal with a massive cancellation, a couple of years ago. So they were probably very, very nervous. But the presentations I saw were awesome. The massive screen, the great big stage. Michelle did a presentation on stage. You didn't have any accessibility issues of getting your car up there or whatever. And it was awesome. And coming down the stage as well, I didn't see you have any difficulty with that. So, it's very important that these things are catered for, even if there's only one person using a wheelchair or a wheelchair type thing. It's got to be, it's important. But the whole event, I think, it's always as good as your last one. So WC Asia was, yes, the best WordCamp that I've been to, because it was the last one, and they're all great. So Athens has got some living up to do to it.
Yeah. Few comments here from O'Neill. Thank you for that, though, Andrew. Michelle was everywhere. I'll be running around wrangling speakers for the next session, and there she was. She was everywhere all at once. And then a thank you from O'Neill directly to Michelle. Thank you, Michelle. All the praise from you is the best. And then one final one. Regarding the food that Andrew's just mentioned, the team made sure that there was the right selection of kosher, halal, etc., because it's important and necessary due to cultural and religious requirements. So thank you, O'Neill, for showing up and adding those comments. I really appreciate that. Just a couple of things before we go. We are fast running out of time, so we'll probably just take a few things out of the list that we were going to mention. But a couple of plugins that I just want to mention. This one came across my radar. It's called Essential Form. It's on the WordPress.org repo. I'll put a link in the show notes. If you want I haven't used it, so I can't really say. But if you want a lightweight contact form that does literally do just the simple basic, what's your name, what's your email address, what's your comment, tick this box. This looks like a really interesting option. It's by Jose Mortellaro, and it comes in at about 14K, it says. And they go on to talk about the fact that it's got some nice Nice security features in there to stop it being spammed. I can't say I've
I
tried
wonder
it.
if it.
Interesting though.
I wonder
Yep.
if it saves things in the database so that you can go back and see. I've used plugins before that only sent an email, and
Yep.
if you miss that email, it ends up in your spam or something misfires. You never get that contact. So that's my only concern with
It won't do that.
light forms.
My guess is that it wouldn't do that, but if Jose actually gets wind of this, it'd be interesting to know. You can leave a comment at the bottom of the post that'll come out tomorrow. And of course, GDPR being what it is, most of us in Europe have to switch those kind of features off anyway. You know, we expunge them either regularly or as soon as they've been sent. So anyway,
Or at
really
least have a
cool.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool little plugin that I wanted to mention. The other one was the Block Protocol plugin is now out. So if you've been following this initiative by Joel Spolsky and his team, the idea is that they've created a suite of blocks. I mean, they're the normal arrangement of blocks. I can't remember what they are, but it is like a text block, an image block, and so on. So nothing revolutionary, but the intention here is, and maybe Ben Intel can speak to this, that these blocks will become interoperable with other block protocol implementations. So let's say, for example, you're in Google Docs. It may be that you can cross-pollinate content. So if you update it on your website, the Google Docs version will get updated in real time in the background, these kind of things. And this just feels like a really interesting initiative. So that's available to download. It feels like it's beta at the moment, but there's that. And then given that we've got 3 minutes left, let's just go to this one to round it off, and then we'll do Michelle's curious video. Bertha, back to Bertha, this time about pricing. And I got an email today, Andrew, which was not only alerting people that you were going to be coming on the show, but also saying that you've amended your pricing. You've dropped your pricing.
Well, we dropped some of the pricing because don't forget that we do image as well, and you know there's whole we do chat. But the main thing is that we're now GPT chat compatible and 3.5. So you know we've upgraded to the latest OpenAI. But I wanted people not to be misled by the pricing that's on OpenAI currently, and it's interesting. While it's sold as 10 times lower the price than DaVinci, the new chat option can be tricky for some users, as now the prompt is also considered as billable tokens. So that every time you send a prompt back, it reads the backward prompt, and that's another prompt. So 5 prompts equals 10 prompts, if you know what I mean. It might be 10 times cheaper, but it might actually exponentially cost you a lot more money, even whatever you're doing. But what I've done is I've massively reduced the pay-as-you-go option, where you don't have to. I've always in WordPress people don't like doing a subscription, and I get it because they forget it's on there, and I didn't really want to do that. So we added a pay as you go some months back, but I've reduced that, and you still get everything in Bertha as if you were a subscriber. You're paying slightly more per word, but you're also getting every single facility in Bertha for the time that those words exist. So it's kind of just an entry level, you know, if you want to try it, you do it. And also you've got with pay as you go, you don't get access to the Chrome browser, but in the $20 starter a month, you do get, there's a Chrome browser, there's a Chrome extension, which has got everything in the Bertha plugin has got. And you can also have the Bertha plugin as well. So, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, thank you. That explained it. That's
great.
And
the Chrome extension means that you can use it on other websites, basically.
Yeah. That's really cool. Very, very finally, if you've got the all-in-one SEO pack, there is a vulnerability that has been over the last week. It was identified just to say get that updated. It does look like it was impacting quite a lot of users. Won't go into the details of that, but we are going to end on a curious a video that Michelle sent. Oh no! Is this it? Have I got it? Is this it? Yeah.
You got it.
What the heck? Right, I'll click play and Michelle describe. Why have you sent me this?
It's just soapbox races, and I went down the rabbit hole of this entire account last night and picked the one that I thought you would laugh at the most, Nathan, which is they make these soapbox derby cars, and so many of them actually arrive at their final destination, but this one does not, and it's a giant. What are those called? AT-ATs?
It's an AT-AT. Star Wars? Yeah.
And it just fails miserably.
Absolutely love stuff like that. I love it when humans invest so much time and energy in just some pointless enterprise. Like we call these go-karts, and as a kid you'd make them, and they would never work. But the idea of doing look at it, it crumples.
These are unmotorized. The only thrust is from the hill that they are speeding down, and just go down the rabbit hole of these, and they're hysterical.
Yeah, this is great.
We have a local one. It's amazing. Where we can. But the key is that basically they're badly made.
Yes, yeah, of course.
Just
on purpose, perhaps. Yes.
Yeah. I was once in Australia. I was in Melbourne, and they have this annual competition on the River Kilda. I think it's the River Kilda. It's called the Birdman, and all these people come with. They've invented homemade flying machines, basically, and there's like a diving board stretched out away from the bridge, and everybody's got to jump off, and the winner is the person that can get furthest away from the bridge. Literally 100% of the contestants walk off the bridge and fall straight into the water.
Homemade boat races are fun too, because they don't usually get very far from the dock before they sink. So
absolutely. Oh well, thank you. You've cheered me up. That's really cool.
My pleasure.
We are over time, but I appreciate
you
sticking
do the
around
wave
for the last few minutes. I'll do the wave in a moment. Just to say, firstly, thank you to Michelle, thank you to Andrew, and we were due to have Hazel Quimpo on, but she sadly has lost her voice. So I hope that she gets better.
That's a nightmare for a marketer.
Yeah,
we'll get her rescheduled.
Yeah, well, thank you. And just before we go, thank you to all the people that have showed up and made a comment. It'll come out as a podcast episode tomorrow, so wpbuilds.com/subscribe. Let's do it. We've got to do the wave. Andrew, there we go. Everybody sounds now. OpenAI Stable Diffusion. Now it knows how to create hands. We're all good. That's perfect. Thank you. And we will see you again next week for another episode of This Week in WordPress. Take it easy. See ya.
Thanks for having me.